turn on the recorder. Um, Remind me, Gloria, where are you located?
Santa Fe.
Santa Fe. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so it's gorgeous here today. I mean, I'm just in Dixon, an hour north of Santa Fe. So yeah,
Yeah.
um,
Have you had
gotcha.
much rain up there?
No, no,
Mm.
no.
Us
Um,
either.
so we've gotten some big, some big clouds in the east in the sun grace, but they haven't brought any rain to down to the foothills. So yeah. Okay, so I want to welcome Judy as well. So it's
Hello.
hi. and and let me just share with you the agenda for today. Um, can kind of see too many things here. I think it's back here in this account. There we go. Yeah. So we are May 24th. Um, uh, a fairly brief agenda. And so there, um, we still have GloveWorks folks moderating the Facebook and Instagram groups for people that want to uh, talk to fellow users of the gloves about various glove issues. That's a good place to go. On that kind of tech design improvements. Um, yeah, Chuck, who's kind of our chief kind of engineer, retired engineer from IBM, has is pretty close to pushing out a number of pairs with a better vibrotactile kind of fingertip design, something that moves perpendicular to the fingertip rather than longitudinal to the fingertip. He's also got it in a smaller package, and he's also experimenting with kind of wireless charging of the battery. Um, there's some concern that if you're charging these things every night as you're moving that kind of cord in and out of the box, you kind of eventually compromise that connection. So if we can do something wireless, um, that's something he's working on.
Wow, great.
Yeah,
That sounds good.
yeah. Um, I'm also being extremely thorough and careful before pushing out the iPhone app and the new Android app. It has lots and lots of moving parts, and I really want to be make sure that we're consistent in the data that we're trying to gather, and that we're bringing it to a kind of a common database. So each week I feel like we're there, and and one more kind of issue is too strong of a word, but one more kind of discrepancy between the two apps comes up, and I'm only meeting with the app developer once a week. Um, so we're meeting again on Tuesday, and there's a good chance that will be our final meeting, and we can push out the new version of the Android app and the kind of the final, well, yeah, final version of the iOS app. So we can for people using Androids, I can share with you apps, but for people using Apples or iPhones, it's a more difficult slog to get it out. So, but
Well,
we
quality ought not be rushed. It all
that
too often
yeah,
is.
so thanks,
Thank
Jim.
you for your
Yeah.
diligence.
I think that's a lesson I've kind of learned with the glove. We pushed out, gloves kind of too soon just because people were eager to try it out, and it's great to get the level of feedback. Um, I'm trying to push out the app so it kind of once and for all, like the right beta version. They'll have all the features, and then we'll get feedback for sure on how to improve it. My main concern, right, is how to improve it so to tailor it to the symptoms of the individual. Right now,
Mm.
you guys are all receiving the same stimulus. Um, I do want to be clear, though, the fact that the glove does not require the app, right? The app will be like an assistant to the glove. It'll help us kind of better track your symptoms, and then with the eventual hope, right, that by better tracking your symptoms, then we can adjust the stimulus, we can adapt the stimulus you feel at your fingertips to be a greater relief of your symptoms. Not everybody is receiving kind of symptom relief. And
So the app won't enable you to change the stimuli?
it will. Yeah,
It
yeah.
will. So I could. That's what I thought was the objective.
Yes, yeah. It will permit you to change the stimulus pattern. And So I like that fact about it, Ken, but also I don't I feel it's a little bit irresponsible to say go ahead and change it without giving you any guidance on how to change it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
yeah, I mean you guys know your symptoms better than the app, right? But if you've got kind of three knobs to turn, it's not really clear which ones to turn first or in what order. And also, the way the glove. Yeah, well, I mean, some people are getting, overnight kind of single trial. I mean, that even happened to Conwork, kind of single trial responses from the glove. And for other people, it takes, days to weeks for the glove to have some kind of cumulative effect, or perhaps a negligible effect. And so so kind of turning the knobs too quickly, you may just kind of bypass the sweet spot. So it takes some kind of patience to know kind of which direction to turn the stimulus knobs, and then at what rate, right? Do we kind of collect data daily or weekly? It's bizarre, right, that we're like 10 years into the technology and we're still asking these very, very elementary questions.
Well, there really hasn't been much work on it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's it, Ken. Yeah, yeah,
I'm amazed at how little work has been done on it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
Well,
and
there's
so,
definitely something to this vibratory tactile thing because there's the beach band, there's the Espanola GloveWorks, there's another, I can't remember the name of some sort of vibrating patch you put on your arm for athletes. There's something to this. We just haven't sorted it out yet.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Well, the earliest was the people who came by train to the doctor's office, and,
Right.
and they were better than the people who didn't come by train.
yeah, yeah. No,
That's
that's
amazing.
that's still a very intriguing data point.
I didn't
And
know about that.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was yeah. So this kind of the most famous neurologist of the 19th century was Charcot in Paris, and he observed that the folks with Parkinson's that were coming to him by train from the outskirts of Paris had reduced symptoms as opposed to those that were not taking the train, that had not been shaken on the way to the doctor's
Yeah.
office. Um, and he acted on this and designed and had engineers build a vibrating chair for his patients. Um,
Empowered.
yeah, yeah, and it was not able to really that the data he collected was not kind of good enough, right, to generate this as a treatment or a cure that other people could replicate. Um, and so 100 years later, more than 100 years later, we've got these kind of vibrating gloves. And as Jim mentioned, there's also, the beach band for the wrist. There's a Q1 for the vibrating the sternum. Um, so I mean, yeah, there's now a squeeze ball that vibrates for central tremor. So that lots of stuff is out there, and it has the great advantage, right, of being kind of fairly inexpensive, non-invasive, and as far as we can tell, practically no side effects. And so, um, I think I did hear Gloria from Laura there, right, that you had some fairly dramatic, results from the glove, and I wonder, could you share that with the group that's here?
I will. It's phenomenal to me. I've had issues with my back and stuff like that and my feet and stuff for, oh, probably 25 years before I was diagnosed.
Hmm, hmm.
And once I got the gloves, the biggest, the first improvement was my handwriting had just deteriorated to where I couldn't even read what I wrote. And about 2 or 3 days into the gloves, I I heard that somebody else, I think I talked to you or somebody else, Dr. Cox, who told me about somebody who had had improvement in handwriting. So I picked up a pen after I heard that and I wrote, my handwriting is going to be clear. And it was. Now, I don't know that the gloves did it, but it sure was convenient and a coincidence. Okay, then the next thing I had was I've had a foot problem for the longest time on one foot in particular, on the bottom of my foot, and I'd had shots into my feet and all kinds of stuff trying to relieve it for the last 10 years. And about 2 weeks into it, I realized that that foot didn't hurt anymore underneath. Again, I don't know that the gloves did it, but what a coincidence. Then I'd had bad shoulders for about 4 years. Before that, I had physical therapy and stuff. And I woke up one morning. They would get worse at night, but I woke up one morning and my shoulders didn't hurt. And I went to my boxing class, and for the first time in forever, I could get my arms up over my head without pain. And just, I had, and I had lost my vocabulary. That was the main thing. I could not have had this conversation with you a month or two ago because my words just wouldn't come out. And now here they are. So I'm giving some credit somewhere to these gloves.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Wow.
thanks for sharing, Gloria. Yeah, I mean, have you spoken to your neurologist about this?
I don't have another appointment until August, but I
Gotcha.
did send her a letter and a note through the my chart
My chart.
stuff
Yeah, yeah.
and told her what I was doing, and she was all for it. She is so supportive, and
Excellent. Excellent.
so that's great.
Yeah, yeah. That's wonderful
Gloria,
to
do you
hear.
mind, do you mind me asking how often do you use the glove? I mean, were you doing it 2 hours twice a day?
Yes,
Okay.
I do it. I do it at night watching television, and in the morning, if I'm lucky enough to wake up by accident at 6 o'clock, uh, I put on the gloves and go back to sleep for a while, and I don't seem to have a problem with sleeping, and that helps. But then you add on 4 hours a day, and then if I go to boxing, that's another hour and a half. So that's 5.5 hours a day, and boxing is 20 miles away, so.
Okay. Well, thank you. It's helpful.
You're welcome. So I'm hoping that's not the end of my improvements. I'm hoping that more happens, but I still have some pain in the top of my feet, both feet. But that one foot that was just excruciating and making me cry every day for the pain is gone.
Oh,
Hmm.
that's wonderful to hear, Gloria. Yeah, I look forward to keeping in touch.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. Any other updates from folks? I mean, I know, Ken, we've had some correspondence, right, about kind of the state of kind of TAS's trials, and the other kind of other glove treatments or other vibratory treatments, that you've been exploring.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that offline, but if you want to, I think it's
Well,
apropos.
yeah. Well, clearly, Peter Tass started on this a long time ago. He first started with direct stimulation. He was working over in Germany, and then he went from direct stimulation to light stimulation. The physical light, on-off lights.
Mhm.
Then he got into this vibratory with fingers, and he was going great guns. He had that one trial with Kanwar Bhutani, and now I listened to Kanwar recently. Jimmy Choi was in that group too, which is amazing to me because he's like a poster child for exercise.
Yeah.
And then they had really good results. You see all these videos. Task goes all over around the country with all these videos and so many different places, and then it just stops. And the gloves were made by Synergic Technologies up in Oregon. So they kind of got in a tiff with Peter, and they started making their own gloves, or they did a trial with gloves. And that trial, there was an elderly gentleman who was in that trial, and he did all these videotapes. And those videotapes show him making progress. And then literally nothing has happened in like a couple years. Just don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And it strikes me as crazy because technology is, I think there's definitely something here. It doesn't work for everybody. It doesn't work for all the symptoms, but there are some symptoms, some people where it definitely works. And Conwar, who was the longest standing user of the gloves, he used them for 8 years and he had good results, but he still deteriorated and he had DBS this year. So all I'm saying is, why did the development stop? Why are there no trials? And that just surprises me.
Yeah.
Because there's no money in it.
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking. But then I came across this guy who makes shoes that vibrate, and the shoes were designed to alert you to when you're going to step off a curb, and it has the ability to measure everything about your stride.
Huh.
And he told me that he is he got a request from a German company who wanted to try out their gloves and see whether they could pick up the results in his shoe. And then I just went to that website and I'm trying to get a contact there, but that's amazing because that's about a 40-person company. And if you look at the bios of these people, they're serious players.
Mhm.
And they introduced a product at a conference in San Diego like a year ago. But if you go on their website, it's very detailed. It's layer upon layer. And there's definitely, they built it off the same platform, the TAS protocols, et cetera, et cetera. But they're light years above anybody else. And so that's the connection I want to make.
Yeah.
What's
And
going on?
have they started trials of their?
I don't, according to the shoe guy, the answer is yes, but I don't know that for a fact.
Uh-huh.
But I'm hopeful that I've got a friend who's at the World Parkinson Conference, starts, I guess, tomorrow. And I would hope that there's someone from this company there as well.
Mhm.
The shoe guy, he's going to be there, and my friend is going to talk to him and try and get a contact. I always like to network into companies, try and get a contact there because if you look at the website, the glove looks beautiful.
Mhm.
And
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. I think you just shared that link with me this morning, so I'll take a look. Yeah. Um,
so, yeah, I think there's something here, and I just don't think it's getting enough attention. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing.
yeah. Well, I'm glad it's still helping some folks. And it's definitely giving some pride and purpose to a lot of teenagers in Espanola, that are,
Right.
yeah. Um, gotcha. Yeah. And speaking
How
of the
many places are there? How
excuse
many
me.
places are there making gloves?
Um, yeah, I think it's just us, Gloria. I mean, so there are a number of kind of one-offs, right? People making something for
Yeah.
relatives. Um, and that another one-off is definitely growing. I mean, so there's a group at Rice University, kind of two students created something called Connections, and one of them began making something for a relative, and now she's got something, where they're making them by hand. They're not yet kind of distributing them, but one of our participants, Ken Heidkamp, is working with them. They've got a small trial going on right now. And I think in a coming Sunday or two, we're gonna have kind of a show and tell. So the Rice group will present their glove.
Oh,
We can kind of
nice.
contrast. Um, but it's not yet for sale, right? So I think as far as where can you get these things, right? And again, I'm not in the business of selling things, right? But I do. Some people have gotten some benefit from them, so the cost just covers, the the parts and labor, right? So and shipping for these
Sure.
things. So
I was amazed at how low it was. I thought it was great. Can I ask one more question?
yes,
How many states? I mean, can people just send a request as Espanola for gloves if they're
Ye-
out of state?
yes, yes, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I would say the bulk of our sales have been to California. We've got them in all six continents. We've sent our gloves to India, to China, to Africa, quite a bit in Latin America, um, quite a bit
That's
in
good. I've
Canada,
had
and quite a few in Europe as well. Um,
I have some
220
friends.
gloves.
yeah, yeah, but over 200 pair have been shipped. Yeah, um, and we're getting on the order of a kind of one, uh, yeah, about one new order a day. It's fits and starts, right? We've never advertised. Um, there is no silver bullet, there's no panacea. You guys are all helping us kind of develop and better understand the efficacy of the gloves and also the kind of quality assurance. How long can they last? Can they stand up to Jim's, violent treatment? Can you wear them to bed? Can you wear them to exercise? Can you wear them to drive? So we're still early in the kind of the learning phase. Um, but we're beginning to present them at assisted living facilities, at senior centers. We presented them last month at the Santa Clara Pueblo Behavioral Health um, Fair and got lots of interesting feedback because it is
Well, I've been
they're very low tech, Lori, so they're fairly easy to produce and fairly cheap to produce, which again that may lead to the answer about why studies have not been more in depth because if there's not enough money to be made. It costs like $1 billion to bring a drug to market, and devices are a little stranger, pathway. Um, so
Who determines whether the device needs to go to the FDA? I mean,
yeah,
there's gloves that's on Amazon. And in fact, one of those articles I read said that the closest one was in Telenex glove.
yeah,
And I don't know. They just say it soothes your hand.
right, right, yeah. I've not. I mean, I've explored FDA pathways. So, I mean, the benefit. So, I guess strictly speaking, we don't need FDA approval. There's exceptions for personal therapeutic vibrating devices. I think that's a fancy word for sex toy that covers lots of things. So this is not a sex toy, but we're under that umbrella, right? As long as we don't make a medical claim. Um, but without the FDA approval, we're not going to get the cost of this covered, by health insurance and providers. So the benefit of the FDA route, would be to make this thing, covered. But I mean, as it is, as Gloria said, I think it's still for the potential benefits, it's quite inexpensive. And a number of you have been quite generous and have paid more than the cost, and that allows us to ship and repair gloves to folks, that tell us that they can't afford them.
I think the company that's the furthest along on doing FDA work was Synergic Technologies.
Hmm.
And I've never talked to anybody up there, but I think it's actually got seed money from either the University of Oregon or University of Washington, I forget which. So it's even though it's a four-person company, it's got some heavy backing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We don't have that level of seed funding yet. But I'm applying for lots of money to support our activities so we can grow and serve more students at the high school. I want to better cement the connection between my college and the high school. Um, and I just finished training 4 teachers from New Mexico about how to build a glove workshop in their school, and I'll be training 10 more teachers in Albuquerque the first week of June. That has led to a 30-page maker manual for folks that do um, want to actually replicate our kind of workshop. Um, and so I'm a proselytizer for that, right? I don't really want to get in the business of making, well, I shouldn't say I don't want to, but my skill set is not in kind of advanced manufacturing, 100 gloves a week. But if we can seed, especially if we can seed internationally, right? There are groups, I mean, why should we be buying stuff from China and shipping it to Africa? Why can't the Africans have a workshop? Or the folks in Chile, the three participants we have in Chile, why can't they build their own or seed their own workshop? Because when it's done right, it's a win-win, right? I mean, it's helping local youth make something and connecting them to elders, that are hungry for treatment that's not surgery or drugs. So,
I have a question. If I've had these phenomenal improvements, I think, for me, and I have no intention of not using the gloves. But if I didn't use the gloves, does anybody have any idea how long the benefit lasts? I mean, does it go away or?
yeah, so our Ken can speak to kind of Kanwar's use of the glove over many years. So as far the glove that we're making, Gloria, which again by Kanwar's statements that Kanwar found similar benefits or similar activity, similar feel to our glove to the glove that he was wearing from the original TOS study. Um, he's not here. Ken has been following him over the years, so Ken can speak to that. But as far as the Espanola glove. Frank Grubbs has been wearing them since October of 24, um, and has seen kind of continuous benefits. He continues to send me videos of him walking the beach in San Diego. Um, and
Yeah, I'm still having big problems with walking
mhm,
like I used to, but I'm walking better.
gotcha.
So,
Yeah.
but I'm glad to find a group of people that to discuss this with.
Yeah.
This is wonderful.
Let's see here.
Tamara?
Yes, so my people probably remember from last time I was here, my brother has Parkinson's. I tried to get him to come to this meeting, but he takes a 10-mile bike ride every Sunday. So he was going
Good.
off to do that. And so his diagnosis was really delayed because he's in sports. And so
Mhm,
really activity helps quite a bit with the tremor
mhm,
and a lot of these things. Not everyone can exercise the way he does, but so one of his problems has been that the Cinemet wears off. It lasts a certain amount of time, and then the symptoms return. And
yeah.
so he didn't understand about how you need to kind of schedule your doses around what you need to do. And of
Mhm,
course, there's medications that help to get rid of that valley where it's not active.
yeah.
But so I noticed too, I helped him set up an exercise bike to use at home. And he was explaining after he exercises, the tremor is gone.
Mm,
And so his big daily task at his home, he cleans up after dinner. And it may take him 2 or 3 hours to even load the dishwasher because he's shaking like this.
mhm,
And so I said, Jeff, take your medicine while she's making dinner, and then it will be peak level when you need to wash the dishes. Or get on that exercise bike. Even it seemed like even 3, 4 minutes on this exercise bike and the tremor was gone. And so I don't know how much, certainly biking down the road, you're going to have some type of vibratory
yeah. Yeah.
stimulation.
Mhm,
And his exercise bike, he's moving and moving. And so I wonder how much of it is that type of effect you get from some whatever stimulation is you're getting. And so I still hope to get him to try these. And he says next time he'll come.
okay.
And so, but he's had a rough time of it. And he was taking his medicine before bed, which is, it's worn off by morning. You don't have
Mhm,
any help at all. And he couldn't
yeah.
remember that was, we talked to him about it, but he just didn't. I think he just doesn't like to think about it, and I don't blame him.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think there is a lot of, especially early on, there's a lot of denial, right? And then so
Mhm.
it's
And
just
he's very, very good at that
uh,
type of
uh,
thing. We all have
and
all have our skills, but
yeah.
but anyway, so
Does he take a time release Cinemet for at bedtime?
He does, but the thing is that it still wears off. He was under the impression that you'd build up dopamine and be better in the morning, but it's actually totally worn off by morning. So he
Mhm.
wasn't getting any benefit at all from that nighttime dose. But if he took it in the morning and then another dose while dinner was being made, then he could have um, better dexterity uh, throughout the times of his day when he needs to do things. But he just didn't remember it. And so we talked about that. So,
It's only going to get harder for him to remember to take his medicine because Parkinson's kind of makes it you're less disciplined. But the key is take it every 4 hours. Rytary is probably the number one time release
yeah.
carbidopa levodopa, and I take one dose like at 5 in the morning, and then I set my alarm right then and there for 4 hours hence, and then another 4 hours, another 4 hours.
hmm
That way
His
you don't.
his neurologist is only okaying twice a day for him.
Mhm.
And so I feel that she should give it more often. And also with the, if it is wearing off, there's that, what's it called? Not adiposine, but I'll remember it later. But anyway, there's a medicine you can take so that it doesn't wear off. And some of my patients have said it's like night and day. They just aren't having the symptoms wear off. But and if he can't remember to strategize, then maybe that is appropriate for him. But yeah, I feel critical of his neurologist. The other thing that there's a common belief that Parkinson patients get osteoporosis because they're not very active, but I don't think they're paying attention to the effect that of dopamine interaction with bone metabolism,
Mhm.
and so it's a huge risk factor. And so I encourage everyone to have their bone density checked. Um, you wouldn't want to have a sudden fracture. Put a crimp in your style, especially when you're doing better. But anyway, he wound up with really, really severe osteoporosis, and they
I
hadn't
didn't
even
realize
bothered to check.
I didn't realize it affected men.
Yes, osteoporosis in men is a very neglected area of attention, and many have suffered just because they think, oh, he's a guy, he's not going to get it. But it's a big risk factor. And if you go to the bone conferences, they're always talking about that sort of thing. But I like to be extra careful.
Thanks, Tamara. I'm not sure if the folks know your background. Do you want to say a little bit about? I mean, um,
Oh, well, I'm a family practitioner with a practice in El Rito, New Mexico. I went to Ohio State University and then I did a fellowship in rural medicine through UW in Seattle. And so I've just been practicing here in New Mexico.
thanks, Tamara. Yeah. Yeah, and the exercise thing, I mean, it's just again, it's good to go back to some previous sessions with Conwar, right? It's kind of the no silver bullet. It really was kind of the right for him, the right combination of
Hmm
exercise, drugs, diet, and glove, right? And so,
hmm
um, and the exercise, I think the exercise pathways, we've looked at them a little bit in literature. I think I think their mechanism of action is just different than the glove. The glove seems to
Okay.
be so by playing random stimuli, it's kind of tricking the brain into weakening a hyperconnected cortex, and that's
hmm
different than the rhythmic activity, the kind of the aerobic activity of
hmm
exercise. So
That's right. You had said that, but I
yeah,
forgot. Thank you.
and but that's still just a surmise, right? I mean, as Ken said, these are such early days, we don't really have enough data. Um,
Hmm
but someone like Kanwar is saying, well, since we don't have enough data, then we just have to be kind of vigilant, right, about kind of having this multimodal practice or treatment of,
hmm
of kind of love, drugs.
Interesting to have a study, get
Yes, yeah,
together 30
yeah,
patients or something and have
yeah,
a good
yeah.
study.
Um, I'm trying to embark on such things, and so we can talk about that at a later time. Those studies are also, kind of searching for funding. I've got investigators at UNM, and then but my closest colleagues are in neurology at University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston. I began
Oh,
kind of,
that's where my brother lives.
is that right? Gotcha. Wow, fantastic. So
She,
maybe I know his neurologist. I'm not sure.
oh,
Um,
geez, I can almost remember her name.
I work with Maya
Boyle,
Scheiss. Scheiss is
maybe?
her name. Um, uh,
Scheiss.
yeah.
That's a terrible last name. But
Germany.
but oh,
Yeah.
It's probably
poor
she's.
thing.
So
She probably got teased in school.
yeah,
Um, but if you can recommend a good neurologist, I feel like she uh just passes him through her day and does a refill and doesn't really.
gotcha.
She knows he exercises and he's fit, but
Mhm.
she's not. I don't think she pays attention to his needs and how he's suffering.
Gotcha. Oh,
But if you could email me if you have a name of a good neurologist, because they've been looking for a second
okay.
opinion. I've been looking through who's available and
Yeah.
maybe I could send him.
Okay. I'll do that. I'll do that immediately.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd really
Right.
appreciate it.
Okay. Um, any other updates or questions from folks? I do know that, yeah, as Ken mentioned, the World Congress for Parkinson starts, I think, tomorrow in Phoenix, and I know Lauren Trapp is there. She's a participant of ours who lives in um, Scottsdale, yeah, just outside of Phoenix. So she's going to give us an update when we meet in 2 weeks' time. So
Oh,
Sounds
great.
exciting.
yeah, yeah.
How often do you have these online things?
Uh,
Like
every,
today?
every 2 weeks, Gloria, every 2 weeks. Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know anything about them
yeah.
until,
Um,
yeah.
I can, yeah, just as a reminder for folks. So um, I try not to spam you so people can unsubscribe, and I try to be respectful of that. But let me share with you. Um, uh, yeah, so I can go here, and well, sorry, maybe it's a bit easier to get there from too many things covering up. Um, so you've been to our webpage, Gloria?
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha. Great, great.
Somehow
Then,
I missed this
It's
though.
looking better all the time.
um, it's up at the top. There's these are the main things. There's an events calendar, donate, board of directors, and the journal club is what we're doing right now, Gloria. I mean, for lack of a better
Okay.
name, so it began just by kind of science presentations by me trying to better understand the efficacy of the glove. But in that journal club, so there's the link to today's session. Um, and then there's a playlist on YouTube. I record all of these sessions, so you can kind of go back and um, I've mentioned the name Kanwar Bhutani half a dozen times, and so I think that, that our third session. So we began this just last June, so we're coming up on our 1 year anniversary. Um, but there was a guided tour of the glove with Kanwar and his discussion, of how the glove worked for him, and how he combined this with diet and drug and exercise. And so the playlist has recordings of all those videos. If you do want to, kind of, I call it kind of constructive procrastination to kind of go back and learn more about Parkinson's in some ways. Um, they're not so entertaining, but you will hear from other folks that have been helping us kind of build a better glove. Um, um,
Do
good.
you send out a reminder like that? I
I
got an
do.
email. Okay.
I do.
Yeah,
I
that's
do.
great.
Although for the newest users, I mean, I wait until they receive the glove till I add them to my mailing list. So I'm not, I'm. Did you receive something from me, Gloria? I guess you must have.
I
Okay.
did.
Good. Good. Okay. Great. Great.
That's
Um,
great. That's how I knew about it. It's
yeah.
nice to meet everybody.
So then at the bottom of this list, with some good suggestions from previous folks, we were kind of all over the place for a while, and now we begin to build agendas. Um, and so, although the agenda for today is, am I really? So I'm out of date, right? And so I sent you the agenda, and the agenda. Um, the next part of the agenda would be the science presentation. So I'm really excited just to take a few minutes. This is the paper. Yeah. So Gloria and for other folks just joining us. I mean, so that's the science presentations have kind of run the gamut of trying to better understand dopamine, understand brain networks, and then understand also various treatments. Like the tango is a treatment. Red light therapy is a treatment. The glove is the one that I'm most invested in trying to understand. But I'm also not a believer in kind of the single treatment philosophy. And so I want to help everyone, with Parkinson's kind of better understand kind of the ecosystem for treatment that's out there. Um, and this one may be something that you've all heard of. I mean, it's gotten, a lot of press. It's potentially extremely dangerous, and so it requires lots and lots of care. Um, but this is a recent report, kind of a phase 1/2 trial of induced pluripotent stem cells that they've been able to reprogram as dopaminergic cells, and they've been able to implant them in the brains of human beings with Parkinson's disease. And so it's just, I mean, we live in amazing times, and I think this is super 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 sci-fi. So when we've only basically understood DNA since kind of the structure of DNA since 1948. Um, that's helped us kind of understand the development of humans. Um, we know that kind of we start with one fertilized egg. That egg divides and divides and divides and divides, and as during division, also the cells begin to specialize. And we get a heart, we get a liver, we get a brain. And even within liver, heart, and brain, there are subpopulations of cells. The cells that are destroyed by Parkinson's are the cells that make dopamine. And we've talked in previous sessions about why they are so vulnerable. The cells that make dopamine are some of the hardest working cells in the body. Hardest working in the sense that they're firing 4 times a second, and every time they fire, they are dumping dopamine at over 1 million synapses. The average cell in the brain only has a few thousand synapses that it's actually dumping neurotransmitter at. The dopamine cells, by design, are are kind of chronically supposed to be dumping, you know, at millions of synapses. That's a gigantic load, and so they're kind of metabolically on the edge, and they're vulnerable to attack. What that attack looks like is super, super complicated and still under investigation. But we do know on autopsy that Parkinson's folks um, have lost a number of cells that make dopamine. And kind of one of the insidious sides is that typically, we've looked at also this in the past, your brain has this amazing ability to compensate to loss and injury. And the typical symptoms of Parkinson's don't begin until more than half of your cells have been compromised. And so, Gloria, you talk about, kind of foot and back and balance issues that were 25 years prior to diagnosis. So one of the current models is that basically Parkinson's is a decade-long disease that begins in the nose or the gut from some environmental insult together with epigenetics. And those insults take decades to find their way to the brainstem, where they begin to degrade these dopamine cells. And so the most common treatment, which most of you are undergoing, right, is to somehow replace that dopamine artificially. So you take an oral dose of a precursor of dopamine, and then the current dopamine cells that are there get kind of a boost. They're allowed to make more dopamine in a fairly non-targeted way, which leads to symptoms and psychoses and difficulties. Also, the drug is so strong you cannot be on it 24/7. That's Tamara mentioned. So everyone suffers these off periods. But nonetheless, it was a wonder drug when it was discovered in the 70s. Um, and seems to be fairly safe, although there is some habituation and there are side effects. So rather than dumping more dopamine in the system, it would be a much better idea if we could just get those dopamine cells to regenerate. Um, there's only a couple of different cell types in the brain that regenerate on their own. Um, there's a set of cells in the dentate gyrus and hippocampus that do that, and then there are the kind of sensory cells in the nose, the olfactory cells that we shed, when we blow our nose or through allergies, but then they kind of get regrown. Dopamine cells do not regrow, um, and so with the kind of discovery of stem cells in the 80s and 90s, there's been this wish list, right, of what are the diseases that could be addressed if we could grow cells of a particular type and implant them successfully. Um, and again, the 90s is quite a long time ago. It began by first by basically taking stem cells, from embryos, right, which is ethically extremely controversial. Um, but with those stem cells, then they could be programmed to create a liver, a heart, a brain, and the like. And those have been successfully tried, um, and even implanted in humans as well as other animals first. Um, but it's a whole other issue to be able to take cells from adults that are not stem cells and reprogram them to basically to take, in this case, the case of the study we're looking at now, they take a blood cell, um, and just through introducing four new genetic factors, they get that blood cell to forget that it's a blood cell and to go back and become pluripotent stem cell. Pluripotent, pluri means it can go off in many, many directions. It can be programmed to become a new blood cell, a skin cell, a neuron, and in this case, a cell that makes dopamine. Um, and so
Wow.
and so and this is a very recent revolution. This was discovered, among the group of, let's say, you may notice our authors um, are all Japanese and almost all from the same place, from Kyoto. Um, so it was a renegade scientist in Kyoto in 2006 that first discovered the ability to reprogram adult cells to become stem cells. Um, he won the Nobel Prize for this in 2012. And there's now been a Manhattan Project at his institute in Kyoto to take this technology, to trial, to market, right? So it's one thing to say, that in a dish you can get a blood cell to forget it's a blood cell and become pluripotent, and then to program it to become a cell that creates dopamine. Um, the reprogramming is not without its ethical considerations as well, because in in reprogramming the cell, early on, they discovered that you could be turning on certain oncogenes, certain cancer-creating genes, um, and so you could be inviting the possibility for tumors if you implant these, in folks. So there's been lots and lots of research and trying to reprogram these cells without turning on cancer genes. Um, the original way to reprogram them was to use, well, the simplest way to reprogram a cell is what already happens through viruses. Viruses get in and reprogram cells by inserting themselves in the host DNA. So there are now technologies where we can introduce new genes into the nucleus without cutting in to that DNA. So there's now much more careful means to reprogram adult cells to become pluripotent stem cells. Um, and so a big part of that paper that I'm showing you now, right, is arguing um, for a technology that seems to be highly targeted, in the sense that they really are producing dopaminergic cells, and that they're not turning on any cancer genes. And then the next level of difficulty is, so once you've got these cells in the dish, right, which are adult dopamine cells made from humans and maybe even your own human tissue, right? There's no reason this can't even be personalized. Um, so once you've got these cells in the dish, then um, how do you graft them safely? How do you surgically implant them in the brain, right? We're not going to take a pill of stem cells. We need to put them where they belong. And in previous sessions, we've spent maybe too much time for some folks. We've spent a lot of time understanding the input structure to the basal ganglia. And so your cells that make dopamine are sitting closer to the brainstem in a place called substantia nigra. And then those are the cell bodies of the dopamine cells. And then they send out these crazy spaghetti axons into the putamen, the input structure for your basal ganglia. And that's where dopamine gets released into the putamen. The cells themselves exist down below, but they send out feelers, axons, right? And the state of the art currently is that these kind of stem cells that make dopamine, they don't branch the way normal dopamine cells branch. They positively make dopamine, they release dopamine, but not putting them in substantia nigra and expecting them to grow axons up into your putamen be a long, difficult process. So instead, they just graft these dopamine cells right onto your putamen, right onto the input structure for the basal ganglia, the place which is where the dopamine needs to get put, right? Where some of your levodopa gets to that putamen. But if we can put dopamine cells right there in the input structure, so you want to graft cells, and again, it's fascinating to see. So what they're, I mean, you can make these cells in a dish. They're grafting, and again, we're all bilateral. We've got basal ganglia on both sides of your brain, right and the left. So you have a left putamen and a right putamen. They're grafting about 3 or 4 million dopamine cells onto the putamen on each side, and then they close you up. Um, and they've got some kind of tracers in there to see how much dopamine is being created, and they're able to do a lot of brain imaging on their subjects to make sure that these, I mean, we're the brain is already a pretty packed place. There's not a whole lot of room for 1 million new cells, and so it's quite possible that even without the cancer-causing genes, it's quite possible for these grafts to create tumors. It's quite possible, right, that your immune system is not happy with these 1 million new foreign cells sitting in both your putamens, both sides. So again, a big part of the study, still kind of phase 1 and phase 2. So it's somewhat the results here are somewhat underwhelming for people that want, a treatment overnight, which you'd actually do if you've been suffering for years with Parkinson's. But what this is showing is that they can grow cells to make dopamine and that they can surgically implant them in a way that embeds into the right place. It delivers dopamine without delivering other nearby transmitters. The cell, the kind of the chemical process that makes dopamine is very similar to the chemical process that makes serotonin. And so they really want to distinguish that they're making dopamine rather than serotonin, which has different functionality. So that they're doing here. And they're showing that the grafts, these kind of the grafting on, a few million cells, that these things are really becoming embedded in the network and not growing into tumors, benign or cancerous, right? Malignant, sorry. And so it's a very positive, kind of hopeful result. And they're also noting, zero to negligible side effects of this treatment. It still is invasive, right? You're being opened up and implanted. It's a much less invasive surgery than deep brain stimulation. Deep brain stimulation is a somewhat permanent thing. The electrodes are going to go in there for years. These cells are also, it's fairly, dangerous in the sense that they are, changing your brain. So they're also going to be here forever. Previous treatments would just kind of go in and make a short-term effect, and then kind of those cells would die out. That's not the right treatment for Parkinson's, right? So it's super important for them to be as thorough and careful and long-term, right? Following people for years as these cells become viable components of your brain. It's good to replace the cells that don't make dopamine, but are they doing anything else on the side that could be detrimental to quality of life? And so So the link for this is in the agenda that I sent you guys. And uh, it's this beautiful success story, right? Of being able to understand genes, understand that just with four factors, you can reprogram an adult cell to become pluripotent, to have the ability to transform into any other cell of your choice. The fact that these things do make dopamine, the fact that they are viable. Earlier studies, they were viable in animals without causing any effect, and now they're viable in Parkinson's. They're This phase one and phase two is largely about safety and adherence. Phase three would be about efficacy, about reduction of symptoms. Nonetheless, they do argue um, that their patients received, or received not the right word, reported, a diminution, a reduction in kind of the standard Parkinson's symptoms, and neurologists reported a decrease in score. Nothing super dramatic yet, but the first step is like do no harm, right? So invent a treatment that has the potential to cure, to not cure, to address Parkinson's. Perhaps it is a cure, right? I mean, if Parkinson's is just a lack of dopamine, or cells that make dopamine, and we can actually, graft new cells onto the brain. This is much closer to a cure than the things we looked at before, like red light and glove. These are epiphenomena, epi treatments that are just treating symptoms rather than the cause. Um, Even levodopa, right, is just a treatment. It's not really going to help cells regenerate. It's just going to allow the cells that are there to push out a little bit more dopamine. But bringing brand new cells into the brain that do the right stuff. I'm super excited by this, and I'd like to continue kind of following this literature with you guys over the coming months and years.
Remarkable.
Yeah.
I'm interested, very interested.
Well,
I
and
had I had a mother who was diagnosed with uh, Parkinson's when she was in her 50s, and she died at 80.
mhm.
So she lived a long time, and her Parkinson's wasn't anything like mine. And she was one of 10 siblings, and none of them had Parkinson's. We don't know anybody else in the family who have ever had Parkinson's except her and me.
Mhm.
And is that I've read that people get Parkinson's who don't have a family connection. But I did, but my Parkinson's has manifested itself so differently than hers that
Yeah,
they didn't have the medications then. So
yeah,
does
yeah.
any
Um, yeah, I mean, the data, almost every year they kind of dial back the number that I think that I believe are purely hereditary or genetic. It's like 5 to 10% of the cases, Gloria, seem to be due to genetics, which would be heritable. So the other 90 to 95% are some kind of unfortunate combination of environmental insult together with genetics that maybe make you predisposed to Parkinson's, but not necessarily, on track. Um, but with things like pesticides and herbicides and brake cleaning fluid and air pollution, um, and or traumatic brain injuries, so for athletes and veterans, that combination, or like boxers, say Muhammad Ali, for example. I mean, so if you're not early onset, which is again kind of largely a genetic predisposition, then basically the environment catches up, and then it need not follow family or be inherited. Yeah.
okay.
Just interject
Thank you.
that
Yeah,
my
Tamara.
Los Alamos patients, people who worked at Los Alamos have a quite a bit higher risk of developing Parkinson's. And I've been
Gotcha.
able to get benefits for some of them.
Hmm. Excellent. Well, I mean, excellent that you can get benefits, not excellent that they're in harm's way. Yeah.
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 It's interesting too. Yeah. I didn't ever have a dangerous job like that, but I've always been a klutz. So maybe I don't know what I did.
I mean, just amazing things, Gloria, that if you live within a mile of a golf course, you double your chance of getting Parkinson's.
Like,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
because
Surprising.
of what they put on the grass or what?
Yeah, because what they put on the grass. Yep.
Huh.
Yep. And that's in the air. Yeah. And
So that book,
that's real data.
the Parkinson Plan, is really highlights the impact of environmental factors, and they know what causes like 80% of the Parkinson's cases, and they just continue to just churn out paraquat and dry cleaning fluid. Sad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a disgrace that we're knowingly poisoning ourselves, you know, as a society. I mean, so just um, um,
I
and
think I think
I mean, our current EPA only making things worse. They're not protecting us.
That's true.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I just didn't. I guess most people don't.
Yeah, so there's as a role for us and education, and so maybe Ken, we should maybe spend some time reading the Parkinson's plan together, right? So I read the previous book of this group, kind of ending Parkinson's disease, um, and so
yeah, my wife Mary's reading it, and
mhm.
we met the one gentleman, Dorsey, I think his name is.
Yeah, yeah,
He was at the conference we had in Sarasota. And, he was also in our support group, and he's a real straightforward guy.
mhm.
And the
Yeah,
book is
and
very well written. It's not overwhelming.
yeah, so
I didn't know about that either. So I'll
What's
check
that?
it out.
yeah, I think I might promote that kind of going forward over the summer. We can kind of read chapters together, right, and learn together. Um, So Jim Holden, I think you were visiting Ray Dorsey's spot in Rochester, right? Did you?
Yes, I went and saw a movement disorder specialist, Dr. Irene Richard,
Hmm.
who was at one point, I can't remember whether she was the head of the Parkinson's Foundation or the Michael J. Fox Foundation when Ray Dorsey was the head of the other. They were both heads of the organization, so they knew each other well.
Hmm.
And she said, just by the way I talked, she could tell I've read his books. So, so
You're
yeah,
you're a
and
dangerous patient.
well, I'm trying to learn as much as I can about this. I was just diagnosed in this past October, and it's like a fire hose of information coming at me. This disease is very complex, and I think they're going to come out with Parkinson's A, B, C, D, E. They're going to have different flavors of it because
Hmm.
I'm just a tremor in my right hand. A friend of mine who was diagnosed a year before me, his speech is affected, and he's started to drool.
Hmm.
Um, and other people like the vibratory therapy. The mid-century French neurologist observed that the gait of people who had Parkinson's was improved. Well, I don't have a problem with my gait. I'm doing just fine. I'm very active. I'm getting in and out of boat. Now that I'm here for the summer, I'm getting in and out of boats on a couple, 3 times a day, which is good for my balance. And I'm very active up and down the stairs. I'm in my third week here, and I'm still huffing and puffing up and down the stairs. But that'll stop soon because I'll be in much better shape. And that's multiple times a day that happens.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I went and saw this Dr. Irene Richard, and she said, "Oh, you're in the very early stages. Call me when you need me. You're
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
no worry."
Gotcha.
Which I guess is a rave review. I'm
Yeah.
still not
Yeah.
thrilled. I've got Parkinson's, but I'm left-handed, so it
Yeah.
doesn't really matter. It
Yeah. But
doesn't.
I mean, ideally, the whole though, I mean, there must be some regimen that can actually like delay the time at which you need to start taking drugs, right? And so,
Well, and I'm in that time frame,
yeah,
so.
yeah.
The three things I got out of Ray Dorsey's books were the things I can do are eliminate the exposure. Well, I'm retired, so I'm no longer exposed at work. We've had the cottage here sprayed with deltamethrin 3 times a year for the past 30 years.
Mhm.
Deltamethrin is a pyrethrin. It's a derivative of the chrysanthemum flower. So I always thought, oh, the chrysanthemum flower, what could be wrong with that? That's got to be au natural. Well, it turns out it goes after the nervous system of the bugs and kills them. So
Hmm.
it may be a contributing factor. So we've stopped that. The other two things are exercise. I am very active, but I can always do better. I'm going to go to a yoga class tomorrow morning, and my goal is to get there 3 days a week, much like people who go to these boxing classes,
Hmm.
and improve your diet. I have an excellent diet, but I can always do better. More fruits and vegetables. Simple. I mean,
Yeah.
these are very simple, basic
Hmm.
things that people recommend for just good health.
Yeah.
So I'm on board with it and doing the best I can.
Gotcha. Thank you.
But
Yeah.
interested in, so some people are really into dietary supplements. And I even had a patient recently who was taking an entire backpack full of these expensive supplements. And I was, ah, geez. But I thought, well, I'd study more. If anything, any of these things can be helpful for Parkinson. And so far in my research, it looks like these, the nerve sheaths in the brain are made out of phosphatidylcholine, phosphatidylserine, and phosphatidylinositol. And so it turns out the phosphatidylinositol is very salubrious for the mitochondria. So when you have cells that are really having to be high output, like these dopaminergic cells you're talking about, that kind of supports them theoretically. Um, so I will let everyone know as I find out more. Uh, I'm not sure I jump into taking a supplement that wasn't really thought to improve that. There's sort of a Parkinson related dementia that I worry about. And so it is important to do whatever we can to take care of our brain and the nerve sheaths and all of the different parts of the different things that can prevent dementia.
Hmm.
And so that's an interesting topic for me.
Yeah, I'm also interested in that, Tamara. I mean, so it's the I think in Dorsey's earlier book, I learned about mucuna. So that's a kind of a velvet bean. So it's a natural source of L-dopa, um,
Hmm.
and so it's. Has anybody here experimented with mucuna?
I
No.
couldn't hear what you were saying. It sounded like you said lacuna,
Macuna.
macuna. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Let me just. I got a little bit something up on the screen right now, so let me just go back to share real quickly. Yeah. Um, a tropical legume renowned for its naturally high concentrations of L-dopa. Um, it's been around, for creating healthy dopamine levels, improving libido. It's Ayurvedic, so it has a tradition, and it's written up in the Ending Parkinson's Disease, this earlier book by Ray Dorsey and company. Um,
Huh.
Conwar too showed us that.
is that right?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and sometimes there's another herb or whatever it is in with it, ashwagandha or something.
So it would be good to try Makuna or not?
It's I think it'd be good to talk to your neurologist about it, right? Or to do a little bit more research. I'm not really, so it's, as Tamara mentioned, I mean, there are supplements, there are too many supplements out there, right? And getting kind of good advice on those. I'm not a medical doctor, Tamara is, but she's also not specializing in supplements for Parkinson's. So it's just kind of,
Yeah, I've just been researching it. One
yeah.
of the things I do if I'm researching something online, I will Google evidence-based Makuna. And
Mhm.
then you get articles, from peer-reviewed journals and actual studies that have been done on that particular supplement or whatever treatment or whatever it is you're researching,
Mhm.
because you can get all sorts of information and you'll just read an article and there aren't even any, there's no background,
No
there's no
background.
study
Mhm.
design, there's no references, and you can just find anything you want and whether it actually helps or not. And so it's interesting. And, often you read these articles and they say, well, preliminary studies and more studies need to be done to prove that this is helpful. And so I'll certainly look up the Makuna and see what I find. Um, I feel sad for people who spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars each month on supplements, and
Yeah.
it's not something I find myself easily drawn into. Um, you don't have to prove efficacy to sell an expensive supplement
Hmm.
Right.
or vitamins. That was I remember this day. I was in high school and I was watching the news with my parents, and Ronald Reagan signed this bill saying vitamin companies and supplement companies didn't need to prove efficacy or safety because vitamins are good for us. And he signed something. Everyone was clapping. Of course, we know now he had Alzheimer's, but it's a it's a crazy industry, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very, very cynical.
Funny coincidence, but I started taking the liposomal glutathione
Mm,
after watching one of Lori Mishley's videos, and it's not supposed to help with tremor particularly, but within a few days it really did.
Mm.
And I'm walking better. Um, so I thought maybe there was another ingredient there, the phosphatidylcholine, like you were just talking about.
mhm.
It is supposed to aid in getting that other ingredient up into the brain. So I thought maybe that's having some, effect. So I ordered some more of that, and I'm wearing the gloves now. It's crazy. I don't know if there's any real basis for that, but it's helping. And I can't take the other dopaminergic drugs. They just don't help me.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to wear my gloves and use those other supplements.
There's also a form, a movement disorder called Parkinsonism that gets, you can be misdiagnosed, not intentionally, of course, but many people with tremors and Parkinson-like symptoms can be misdiagnosed. And so I've seen that happen too. And that would be great if yours just evaporated and went away and that you didn't have it anymore. That'd be great.
It'll be lovely, but
Mhm.
in the meantime, maybe I needed some bolstering from those
Mhm.
compounds.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of food for thought. Lots of things we need to take a deeper dive and to understand better and to share our experiences. Um,
I'll report back on Makuna. I'll look into that.
Thank you,
See
Thank
what
you.
I
Jennifer.
find.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know there's a paper trail of studies in the book on ending Parkinson's by Dorsey and three other authors, the Bass Bloom from,
Michael
and
Oken.
Michael Oken, thanks, and there's a fourth one as well. But um,
Right.
and so I think I'm going to shut down the recording. I can stick around if people would want to kind of talk one on one. Otherwise, I look forward to welcoming you back in 2 weeks' time. Okay.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Thank
stick
you.
around.
It was wonderful.
Okay.
Good meeting.
Thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
us, Gloria.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you so
Bye bye.
much.